and this is our plan of attack.
Banks have become an essential threat to our democracy. So consider this justice.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the internet. Please help support this station so this battle can continue forward. Revolution Radio! Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
How healthy are your arteries? Deteriorating circulation has a number of early warning signs. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, fingers and or toes often go cold. Arms and or legs often go to sleep. Sharp diagonal crease in the earlobe. Short walks cause cramping or pains in legs. Memory is not as good as it used to be. Ankles swell late in the day. Chest pain after physical exercise or emotional stress. If you experience even one of these symptoms, your circulatory system is crying out for attention. Extendivite is a natural solution to help improve your overall health. Extendivite is not your average heart tonic. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or find us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Do you feel as if you don't belong? Do you know you were meant for something more? Well, you were. Knowledge of who you are and where you really are from is within your reach.
Oh, there it is.
Join Janet Lessin and Dr. Sasha Lessin as they search for the answers as they open up the Stargate to the cosmos.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Stargate to the Cosmos. Oh, got feedback. I'm your host, Janet Lessin, and today Dr. Lessin is not feeling well, so we are here with my standby, best friendy co-hosts for today, Barbara G. and Lindsey. And we have an amazing show today. We're going to have John Titor II and Dan Cooper. And all of us are experiencer contactees. John and Dan have been in the secret space program. They're genetically altered They're going to tell us their stories. We're going to talk about the technologies of the secret space program, how they can be brought into reality. It's a future reserved for a select group of people. What's going on with the secret space program? I know we've had John and Dan on a number of times, but we're going to update. We're going to connect the dots and compare notes. And both Barbara Jean and I have been involved with the extraterrestrials for many, many years. And I've been in an underground military installation on Johnson Atoll. So, getting a little bit of feedback here. Not sure what that's about, but let's proceed. First, I'm going to we're going to do sound check. Barbara G. Lindsey, say howdy.
Hey,
Aloha.
hello everyone. Aloha, my dear friend. Hello from California. Coming to you live.
Great. Coming to us live from California. And John Titor II, or Titor. Is it Titor or Titor? I keep screwing that up. But how do you
Titor.
Titor, John Titor II. Welcome to the show. We're so glad you're here today. How you doing?
I've been doing good.
Good. We got a lot of catching up to do. And so, we got a lot of California people. And Dan Cooper's also in California. I think you and John kind of live close to each other.
I don't know.
Dan, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Where do you live, Dan?
I'm near Palm Springs, Yucca Valley.
Oh, okay. I know where that is.
Same neck of the woods, yeah. So I think what we'll do is a really short intro by both of you, a little bit, maybe 10, 15 minutes about it. Who you are, how you got involved in the secret space program, and what was your role there. And I guess you're both out of it. I'm out of it too. So how you got out of it. So, or are you ever out of it? So let's start with John.
Well, my career started at Dulce Base. And it all came down to I'm a clone. I was cloned there and trained there and then moved on to Wright-Patterson and then on to Area 51. But I'm a pilot. And I've flown the TR-3B and the TR-6 Telos. But they have bigger spacecraft in the secret space program. And
I want to talk about that.
They have huge cylindrical spacecraft that looks like it could be an aircraft carrier. But the whole thing about them is that there have been hundreds of sightings all over the world. And for the longest time, the government would just deny their existence. But these things, you can land a TR-3B in one, and the TR-3B is a workhorse. It's just a good scout aircraft. And you can do a lot with the larger cargo spacecraft. And we first really got to look at secret space program because of Gary McKinnon and what he discovered on DoD computers. And it was all about Solar Warden. And he was absolutely correct. It's incredible. I think that we have between Gary McKinnon and Edward Snowden, those people revealed an awful lot about extraterrestrials and the secret space program. But I think that the big thing that's changed is President Donald Trump signed the order for the Department of Defense to go ahead and create the Space Force, which means that the secret space program will just be pushed over to that.
Right. So are they going to say, oh, that was there all along? Or how are they going to explain all that technology and how advanced it is? Or are they going to do that? Or are they just going to keep it compartmentalized even further. What
No,
do you know about what they're going to do?
I think that they are going to make announcements, and they are going to say that we have spacecraft, and the secret space program, it does a dual purpose. There's two things that it does. One is that it will engage with extraterrestrial spacecraft that are not signatories to an agreement with Earth. And there are some extraterrestrial species that have come to Earth and abducted or done other things, and it's contrary to the agreements that we have with the four species that we work with all the time. And that would be the tall whites, the Anunnaki, the Greys, and the reptilians. Of those four species, the tall whites are by far, I'd say, the most technically advanced. They're light years ahead of us. And I believe that Homo sapiens are connected to the tall whites. At some point, we spring from the same ancestor. But I would say,
right,
we've been meeting with Anunnakis and Greys and reptilians. I went hunting for reptilians here last year. I responded to a U.S. Forestry Department bulletin. Someone had basically seen reptilians eating humans over in Arizona. And I actually went there to the place they described with backup and the appropriate weapons. And it was really funny while I was there near the Salt River in Arizona. And I met these three-man teams of snipers, and they wore military boots and had military rifles. And they asked me for my ID, and then they said for me to be on my way. So they were there hunting them. But what was really interesting, I cruised by this one little village on Highway 188, and there the gas station was deserted, and the Quick Mart was deserted, the RV park was deserted, and then I hit upon these three-man sniper teams. So they were there doing something.
And they didn't invite you to join them?
You know, I even asked that, and they said, be on your way.
Be on your way.
And I just thought, you know, this is one time that I will just be on my way. And then I cruised down the road. I think I was on Yavapai, Apache land. And I met this reservation police officer for the Yavapai. And I asked him if he'd seen anything. And he said, I've seen all kinds of things. But I'm not going to tell you.
No.
But
interesting.
I've had better luck with the Navajo Rangers. They have the Navajo Reservation Police, and then they have the Navajo Rangers. And they patrol an area, New Mexico, all the way up to Utah, and parts of Arizona too, and that three-state area, and they go all the way up to Utah, and at the northernmost point, you hit Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh yeah, we've heard about that.
And
well, let me go ahead.
I recently made the acquaintance of Ryan Skinner, the owner of Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh.
And what was really interesting, I mean, I'd read everything about Skinwalker Ranch, and I knew that Robert Bigelow had owned it for a while. Then he sold it to Ryan Skinner. And then I said, well, I asked Ryan if I could come up. And he said, it's more like a laboratory. And they do a lot of experiments there. But what is definitely there is very scary. Very scary.
Wow. Well, let's pause here. Let me bring in Dan, and we'll have him tell us a little bit about himself, and then Barbara Jean and I are going to ask questions, okay? And we're going to open this up and get deeper and deeper into the process. Okay, Dan, hi.
Hey, so a little bit about myself. Hey. What you want to know? Currently, I'm an inventor. I invent free energy generators, engines, motors, and I'm involved in trying to get that developed and released through society for to prevent global warming, get rid of fossil fuels, the use of them for combustion, and clean up the environment, but also free everybody up economically. People wouldn't have to work if we had free energy devices, generators, motors, and engines. So I'm working with some people right now trying to get that sold, and we'll start working on developing that. There are other people who are doing this in all over the world. There are different groups working on this stuff. But we don't know if it's going to actually get released. We think it is because there are some releases of over unity generators on the market throughout being sold. And but I'm also an experiencer in the sense that I was in the secret space program. I did a 20 and back in the secret space program. So I was trained originally. I was genetically engineered to be a super soldier by a Japanese geneticist in Japan, and 1952. And then I trained with Japanese sword masters there in Japan for about 5 or 6 years, and then over to then I went over to the Area 51 area. There was actually a place called the Farm where they were training us in Idaho, and like Area 51 or Area 50, I don't know, but it was in Idaho, and we called it the Farm, and we did a lot of training there. And then training in Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, under Seymour Johnson Air Force Base. A lot of training. Again, we're being trained as super soldiers. We've been genetically engineered, so we trained as super soldiers when I was 17 and a half in New York. Actually, I was at the New York Athletic Club when I was playing water polo. And that's where I met my commanding officers, the two commanding officers I played water polo with there. And I had no idea they were going to be my commanding officers, but sure enough, I went from playing water polo with the New York Athletic Club to all of a sudden now I'm on a ship, and we're out there, doing battle throughout the galaxy for the United States and the Draco. This was Dark Fleet. We were traveling with the Draco, according to our agreements with the Draco. And so,
right. So that's the reptilian faction of the four major species we're in alliance with. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Dan. Go ahead. Continue.
So anyway, when I got back to they return you right back where they picked you up. So they picked me up at 17 and a half. I guess I got back in 1980, right? And then I have my own life, that I progress from here. But they usually try to dampen you down. They don't really want you to progress too much on this life, so they always have a handler that follows you around, and they keep you. They try to keep you out of. They don't want anybody to notice you, so to speak. Anyway, go ahead, Janet.
Okay, well, I'm going to bring on Barbara Jean, and I'm going to give her the honors of the first question. So, Barbara Jean Lindsey, who are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself as an experiencer, especially. I know you're a psychic, too, but go ahead. You there? Are you on mute?
She's on mute.
Barbara, unmute yourself. Hello,
How
dear?
professional is that, right? I'm sorry. Oh, God. In 1989, I had a near-death experience, and I full-body channeled a being from Egypt who collapsed both my lungs, and I was in a coma for 2.5 days. And then I went to the other side, went on a spaceship, and met the tall white beings. Never saw their faces, but had I was in a coma for 2.5 days, and so I had quite the experiences with them. And it's taken me 30 years of searching and trying to find the truth of all of that. Because when you're expanded, your consciousness gets expanded, and you go, "What was I thinking?" Because before it's you're blending and being normal, and then kind of like death sets you free from the matrix. So since then, I've been kind of a seeker of truth of all of this, and so I'm really happy to be here to help Janet. And so my question to you two would be, I'm really interested in people's personal story, and I'm kind of new to this. Maybe I'm not, but I think I am, okay, with the Secret Space Program. So can I have a brief story of how you woke up to discovering that you're in the SSP? And we'll start with John, if that's okay.
Basically, I woke up one morning at Dulce Base, and I was 27 years old when I woke up, and I was cloned. And they implant memories, and you don't know you're a clone. And my situation was that I outlived all the other clones that I trained with, except for one. And I got some 30 years in the Air Force, and then I was relieved of my command, and I didn't know what they were going to do with me. And I made arrangements to kind of disappear, but they found me again anyway. But I've had lots of adventures.
Yeah, we want to talk a little bit more about how, where you were stationed, where you went to, and some of your missions you were on. But we'll come back to that. Okay, back to you, Barbara Jean.
Okay, thank you. And then if you would, John, if you would give us yours.
Dan.
Dan Cooper, sorry.
Yeah, so
Thanks, Dan.
You want to know when I started to get my memories back, because they when they bring you back, they drop you back off when you were 17 and a half, right? The clone body, they don't let you keep the good one. They drop off a clone body. They clone you at 17 and a half. You do your 20 years service, combat mostly, a lot of combat. And then you come back, if you survive. I don't know what the survival rate is. They never told us. You come back, then they drop you off right where only they drop your clone off. They cloned you when you were 17. They dropped the clone off. They put you back into the clone body. And then that's the body that got released. So I didn't get my abilities, a lot of the abilities, certainly not the abilities I developed over the 20 years in combat. And then they wipe your memories, so you don't get to remember anything. So I didn't get my memories back till 2005 when I invented my first free energy generator. And that's when I started really challenging a lot of things mentally, like, well, if they lied about that, are they lying about this? But that's when I started getting some of my memories back. I don't have all of my memories back, but I have very significant ones, and they're real. I have photos. I've shown you photos. I have photos that document the actual training and the base that I was genetically engineered from, stuff like that. I've already shown you some. I have more. Anyway, next.
Okay. So, John, you and Dan both were trained in martial arts. And so that was part of your assignments. I guess what I want to go into next is, like, where were you assigned? You both went out of the solar system. John, did you go out of the into the galaxy or out of the galaxy? Where were you stationed?
I've never been out of this galaxy.
Okay, yeah. Tell us about your missions. Go ahead.
I did survey missions of the moon and Mars. I did a survey mission to look at exoplanets that were like Earth that could be inhabited. And I found 2 or 3 that could be used to support Homo sapiens and life on them. And I believe that based on my surveys that 2 colonies were created on 2 separate planets, light years from Earth, but we could preserve our species by having these colonies. In other words, if the environment here on this planet collapses, then there would be a migration to these colonies. And these colonies have been up and running for a while.
Are they intentionally going to collapse our environment, do you think, either of you?
I don't think so. I think that some people will really try to work at preserving the environment, but we're pretty much past the point of no return on a lot of things. We've got more plastic in the ocean than fish. And when the oceans die, then Homo sapiens may not be able to survive on this planet. We're seeing mass migrations of Homo sapiens moving around on this planet. There's an exodus from Africa, North Africa, to Europe, and from North Africa to India, Malaysia, United Kingdom, United States, Canada. We're seeing increased numbers of Muslims, in particular, coming to the United States. That leads to political problems for the United States right now.
Mm-hmm. Dan.
Yeah, so you want to know about the technology. Okay, plastics. Yeah, that was one of the first questions they asked me, this group that was, I don't know, I think they work for the SSP, Secret Space Program, but they, I'm pretty sure they work for them. And they were asking me if I could create a device to process plastics, and that's one of my projects that we're proposing to work on. It's pretty easy to process plastics. We're already doing it. It's Westinghouse Plasma. Westinghouse Plasma Corporation is processing plastics, and as far as going out into the ocean and doing it, people don't really, want to do it like that. They want to do it on base. They don't want to go out to the ocean and grab all this stuff to do it. But it will be, because we have, free energy generators, motors, and engines, and so we'll be able to go out and get all those plastics and process them with these plasma disassociation plants that we already have. Westinghouse Plasma already has them. We're just making better ones. I'm making a better one, but we already have them. So we're well on our way to. We can restore the planet. It's possible if the interplanetary corporate conglomerate will allow us, if they'll let us do it. We don't know.
Yeah,
we don't know for sure.
So I guess the question I started with, do you think this collapse of our environment has reached a point of no return, or it's going to in a few years? And is there any way to, are they trying to collapse it on purpose?
Well, lots of people say
lots
of people say there's a no return point within 25 years. Some people say 15 years. These are scientists, and they have, all these scientific long, big articles proving their specific theory. But that's a very short time, whether you look at 25 years or 50 years or 15, or it already happened. But I know, because I'm inventing the technology and working with people on this technology, I know what technology is getting released into the public, or at least what I'm working on is, as far as I'm concerned, that's what's going to get released, because I don't work for the military and I refuse to. I'm only doing commercial stuff, what's going to get released for the public, and this is what I'm working on. So I know what we can do in 25 years with this technology. We can completely restore to the environment, even if it has been counted for the countdown. Even if they hit 10, I disagree. It's still salvageable, because I know the technology. I'm inventing it. I know what it can do. Go ahead.
So that sounds hopeful. And then I want to hand it back to Barbara Jean, but let me just follow with this. So you know that it doesn't matter how far it goes, that we can recover it and pull it back and salvage this planet and restore it.
Because I know the SSP
Tell us a little bit more about that.
I know the SSP level of technology. I rediscovered the 6th and 7th forces. I know how to work with them. There are other people that are working in the 6th Force now. I remember Marilyn Houston is divulging that she has the 6th and 7th Force Secret Space Program. She's Lockheed Martin, and she's divulging that they have the 6th and 7th Force, so it may be released. You're talking about reclamators, real reclamators. The 7th Force allows you, the 7th Force of Energy allows you to do replicators. It's replicators, which means you can do really large industrial reclamators. Totally restore it. They just run over the ground and completely restore it. So there's nothing we can't restore. We have the technology. Secret Space Program has technology. It's only a matter of what they will release. But even at the lower level of technology, we say the 5th Force, even if the 6th and 7th Forces won't be allowed, I can still do it with the 5th Force. And I'm proving it to people. I've been patenting and proving it. I had major mathematical engineering discussions on one of my patents just yesterday with some top electrical engineers. So, it can be restored, even if they restrict us to the 5th Force. We're hoping they won't, but we'll see.
Okay, we'll let Barbara ask a question. Barbara,
so with this free technology, right? Is it kind of like a soft disclosure? Is that what I'm getting from?
No.
No.
I have real patents. They're real patents. They're real.
Okay.
These are real machines. This isn't soft disclosure.
Okay.
These are they're real inventions. I really patented. I'm really selling one. I have a big meeting tomorrow to sell one of them.
Okay. And so when do replicators will be on the market? Then
No, you're talking about 7th Force. No, I'm saying the Secret Space Program has the 7th Force, and they may allow replicators, but I don't think they're going to allow that. They want to see how society's going to do with the lower levels of free energy, and the lower levels are what Nikola Tesla had first invented back in the 1800s and then developed in the early 1900s. That level of technology is the first free energy. He said he was driving around a car with a magnetic motor. He was. Was it Nikola Tesla that created the first transporter? Yes, he did. Did Nikola Tesla engineer the first Warp 1 spaceship? Yes, he did. I mean, we're only going back to a short period. I'm sorry, we're going back to the original works, and we want that released first, at least. They may not release it all. 7th Force is very advanced, but they may implement replicators. They have the industrial replicators. They may actually just pull them down, use them, and then, take them out of your site so you don't reverse engineer them. We'll see. Mm-hmm. We're going to see what's going to happen. We don't know. I'm trying to get into meetings with the Secret Space Program personnel, but that'll happen, and it's just on my schedule. It's not something that's imperative right away.
Mm-hmm. And John, what do you think about that?
I'm very old. As I said before, 30 years, and then I still consult with the Air Force and the Space Force at Area 51 and Area 52. My purview is that I believe that the environment will collapse at some point. If we can't get China and India to do something about their pollution levels, the United States isn't the culprit so much. We're only in it about 10-12% of the polluters in the world. But the biggest problem we have, and I've said this a few hundred times, is plastic in the ocean. And they had a program, Clean Up Oceans, and they went out to the Pacific Gyre, and they tried to clean it up. And they towed this thing out there. It was supposed to take the Pacific Gyre and pick up the trash, and it didn't. It broke down. And so they hauled it back to Hawaii. And I was really disappointed that didn't work. If we don't get the oceans cleaned up, then the fisheries are going to die off. I'm not saying that a lot of the fish that come out of the Pacific Ocean are fit to eat anyway, because of Fukushima. A lot of them will glow in the dark. So I don't eat fish. But a lot of countries depend on fisheries. That would include Indonesia and the Philippines. And these are some of the worst countries. If you go to those countries, there's some areas where there's so much trash and refuse on the beaches. It's horrific. But by the same token, if you go over to Lebanon, the trash there is about 2 feet thick all over their beach because they throw everything in the river. The river washes down to the ocean, and it just sits there. They don't know what to do. And it's all over the world. I saw some videotape from some scuba divers in Indonesia, and they were just being pulled along underneath the water, about 10 feet down. And there was so much trash. It was incredible. Everything was just floating by them. But we're seeing just recently on the California coast, dolphins and sea lions washing up dead on our coastline. And they've ingested things. Some of it is from basically things that are washed out to the ocean and ingested. But there's a lot of stuff in the ocean that they ingest and then die. In other parts of the world, we're seeing where killer whale population is really in decline. So is the whale population. They did a thing on penguins at the South Pole, and the penguin population is really down too. So what we're seeing is a decline of sea life. On Midway Island in the Pacific, the famous Midway Island, Barack Obama went there during his presidency, I think in the second term. And what he saw littered on the beaches was fish and seabirds by the millions that had ingested plastic and washed up on the beaches. And the beaches were just littered with this stuff. So that's what's happening. If the oceans die, Homo sapiens will feel the impact by the loss of fisheries. And then we'll have famine in these third world countries that depend on the fisheries. And then we'll have more migrations. And if this will escalate the food prices in the grocery store. It's just a trickle down thing. It's all about food.
Yeah, so John and Dan, so you were in this secret space program and on other worlds and in different systems. How do they do it so they don't end up with this mass amount of pollution and devastation of their worlds? What did you both see? Because this is where our hope is. We see other species, other planets, other worlds, other cultures, societies doing it better than we can. So we seem to be trapped in this mentality where we're self-destructive and destroying ourselves. But reaching outside of that paradigm, we can look for other ways of doing things, other governance systems, other societies. So what can you bring back to the table to the world on how we can do this better? Let's go to Dan and then back to John.
Gosh, I don't remember much about the civilizations themselves, just about the combatants. So obviously we were doing war with these people on my, Draco interest. So I didn't get to really go down there and, meet and talk to them about their society or, but from what I could see, the advanced societies, you're looking at pristine planets. Everything is right. Yeah. There's no smog or pollution or even noise, and then everybody's flying. There's no ground transportation. The ground is totally, people are living in different kinds of buildings. They're not living in the same kind of buildings we live in. And a lot of people the more advanced species live inside the planet, not on the surface. And the surface is pristine in a lot of those planets. So, and planets that we did war with, the different realms, meaning many solar systems in a single, under one commander of one council. Realms, they were all pristine planets. I never rarely ever run across anybody doing what we're doing to our planet. But then we didn't visit the primitives. We didn't visit people who just came out of warp, just discovered warp, just became a warp society. We're not even a warp society yet, because you're not a warp society until everybody has warp in humanity, and that didn't happen. We had a breakaway group, and they took it out and did their own thing. So we're not really a warp society yet. So we didn't really associate with those people. We associated with very advanced societies, and they all had it together when it came to their planets. They didn't do what we're doing to their planets.
Well, even and then I'll go to John, but I wanted to ask you. You were conducting war in a different way, where you had like a champion. I remember the story of the Anunnaki. They used to, at the end of their wars, where they devastated their planets, they went to a system where they had a champion, and the champions would fight, and whoever won that fight was, they determined the outcome from that. Were you operating in a champion type system out there with all the other planets?
Yeah, I was that was a fighter. I did duels. I was a duelist. I fought tournaments on those planets that decisions were resolved. In fact, you couldn't even say hello to them without having a combat engagement. They insist that you send your fighters first to engage in ritual combat, which meant fighting with swords to the death. And I was specifically trained for those purposes, for those specific duels. That's what I was trained to do, was to fight with swords, laser swords. We fought with laser swords, like lightsabers. And that's what I did. And many issues, for more advanced species that could destroy each other with technology, they resolve the conflicts between themselves in ritual combat. Combat either to death or usually it's combat to the disability till the other opponent's disabled. They don't do full-blown war with technology. Only the lesser species, the less advanced species, use technology to engage in war. It's considered very crass to use a projectile weapon. What to speak of particle beam weapons and energy beam weapons? It's just not. You're not welcome if that's how you're going to engage. So that's why they want us to send your fighters here first, and then we'll talk to you.
Wow. Okay, back to John. What did you encounter in terms of the planets? Were they pristine? Were they polluted? And how did they settle their conflicts? How did they do war?
Well, certainly plasma weapons and the death ray weapon that Nikola Tesla invented is used by our military. I would say that in combative situations, did I ever get in a situation where I commanded a task force and encountered a hostile group and had a fight in space with them? Yes. And I was assisted by the Greys, and we annihilated a small squadron of Anunnaki ships that were not really mainstream Anunnaki, but they represented a threat to what I was doing and where I was going. And so we engaged. But I would say that on this planet, we have the ability to recycle everything. Okay? There is nothing that we can't recycle here. But countries just don't. They just throw it in the river, washes down to the ocean, and there it sits. Plastic is probably the bane of mankind because it doesn't degrade. There are other things that we could use that would degrade, and some people are starting to do that now. It's like the move from plastic straws to paper straws. And people will get paper straws now in some restaurants. So these restaurants are cognizant of what it takes, what we're filling up the landfills with. So a lot of plastic is reused. Things that can't be reused, it still has to go to the landfill. I don't see that changing. I don't see long term on this planet all of the countries on this planet coming together and dealing with the trash. They just don't. I think that Brazil was host for the Olympics here recently, and they had to go down to the waterfront areas where they were going to have events and clean up the beach because there was just so much stuff. And then they sampled the water, and the water wasn't fit to swim in. So these are the things that we're looking at. There are gyres all over this planet, and they're not getting cleaned up. Other planets may be in a position to have not polluted their atmosphere and their water and their oceans. On Earth, we've done fracking, and so a lot of fresh water, groundwater, has been destroyed through fracking. But government doesn't like to talk about that, but it happened all over. In Los Angeles County, I think that almost all the naturally occurring wells have been capped for PCBs. And then the other thing, Governor Newsom here, he didn't want to build more dams since he became governor, but he wants to tax drinking water. So you will see an escalation in pricing for drinking water here on this planet. Here at my compound, I have a whole system that brings in water from county sources, and then I basically put it through an osmosis filter, and then I have bottled water, quality water coming out of all my taps. And it's convenient, and I can refill plastic bottles, and I'm not going to get poisoned. But I'm kind of an extremist on recycling. But the United States is just a small cog. When you look at all the countries on this planet, if they all recycled, if they all looked at moving from the internal combustion engine to electric cars and trucks, we could make a difference. Do I see it happening? No, I do not, and I don't think it will happen in time. In China, they're working very hard towards reducing emissions now. They went from having literally no vehicle traffic on the roads there besides bicycles to they have cars. And they have a tremendous amount of cars there. But they're trying to build the Chinese electric car. And they also build Teslas there. So I think that they're sensitive to it. But they still have days in Beijing where they tell the population to stay home and not go to work because the air is so bad.
Yeah, that's a problem.
That's a problem.
we're gonna at the second half of the show, which we're coming up in another 6-7 minutes to the top of the hour. We'll look at solutions, but let's deal with the problem some more. Barbara, do you have a question before we go to break?
She's off. Tell her to turn her mic.
Okay, she's off.
Yeah. So I guess my question would be, is there hope that we can have the free energy? Is that one of the solutions? Maybe we'll talk about that when we get back.
Yeah, we already have. There's a free energy generator that the Koch brothers, they're in big oil, so they know they have to make a transition, and they've been supporting the Beacon Power free energy generator that is a grid supplementer, and it's a 4-to-1 unit, a 4-to-1 over unit. They say it is. They say it's 100% efficient. That means it takes 1 watt in to produce 4 watts out, which means 3 watts over unity. That's a Beacon Power. That's mainstream United States, right out there in Pennsylvania. Also, there's Roche, the Roche buoyancy generator. That's an 8-to-1 over unity. They sell 15 kilowatt generators for Europeans. They won't allow them in the United States yet, but we'll get them in. But that's not, there are a lot of people working on free energy generator, but these are existing ones. These are real. You can go buy them. You can go see this stuff. It's real, and it's being released. That's good news. I just don't think it's far enough. I want more powerful generators, motors, and engines. I'm working on a jet engine right now. There's another group that's also working on a jet engine. We're talking about a free energy jet engine where jets don't use fuel and batteries or anything like that. So because we have so much fossil fuel from jet engines, we're also working on a motor for cars and all vehicles. And I have MadCorp wants me to do a train, a locomotive engine. Oh my God, that's a huge project. So there's different. What I want, if these things do come out, yeah, it's possible to save the planet if they allow these things to come out.
Right, but what do we do? What do we do about the attitudes? Yeah, people's attitudes. Do we have any way to? What do you think we can do to shift people to being more conscious, to caring about the planet? To realize
I think that the more knowledge of these free energy generators that gets out there, the more people see that free energy, because that's what freed my mind, was inventing a free energy generator in 2005. All of a sudden I started getting memories back of my secret space program experience. I was I think that that it will raise the consciousness of the planet tremendously by releasing the knowledge of the existence of free energy. And that's primarily what I'm doing on these programs with you, Jen. That's what I'm doing. How do they work? I can tell you how they work.
Yeah.
I know how they work. I know exactly how they work. I'm inventing them. Oh, the M drive. Yeah, NASA's peer review of the M drive. Don't forget that puppy. That's an important one. NASA's peer review drive. That's an over Unity thruster. Hey, they say it goes warp 1. Hello. NASA says it goes warp 1.
So we have warp technology, but it's just not released.
And China completed one and flew it in space in 2014. So guess what? China's got warp 1. Now, personally, I think China's coming along just fine because they approached me and said, okay, show us a prototype and we'll build it. So I don't think China's opposed to using free energy generators to get rid of pollution.
So if it starts getting used in one place, everybody want to keep up and do it too.
I hope so.
And then the genie will be out of the bottle.
And we'll see, I think it's possible. We can save the planet. It's possible.
Alrighty, cool. Okay. We're coming up on our top of the hour. Let's, Barbara Jean, what would you like to cover? There's a lot of information we covered the first hour. What do you see happening?
Oh, did we?
Not yet. We have like three. We have 4 more minutes. 4 more minutes.
For break
I'm asking Barbara Jean.
Okay.
In 4 minutes, we got a break. Yes.
Okay. I'm just seeing more of an esoteric solution. And I know that sounds out there, but it is a part of the solution as well. It's having a relationship with the Earth so that you have an awareness that she is a live entity and that we're responsible for her. We're a guardian of her, and to have a relationship with her. And then we can, once we build that awareness, then I love the idea of the new technologies as a source to help heal her and make her beautiful again. The water, the air, all of it, it's such a beautiful planet. And if I'm here, I feel myself as a guardian, and I don't want her destroyed. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm here. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
I'm okay. I feel good about that.
Yeah.
And you have some solutions, so that's good. Instead of just, a desire, we can actually make a plan of action. Maybe that's, what we can, or at least start it.
Yeah. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, inventing a free energy generator is not for your average bear. It's a lot of work as well. It's not just something, you don't get an epiphany and that's it. You type it up. It's not like that. It takes months and months of research and months of development and mathematical. It's a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're coming up to the top of the hour, but I've been on all kinds of planets, and they take me around, and I'm just observing and picking it up and taking it in, and like the two of you, I really haven't seen pollution and all that stuff. There was one place where I went through the ruins that they showed what happened in previous generations when they had wars and the devastation and how the pollution killed off massive population, so there were all these cities that were just vacant, nobody in them. And it was very sad to see, things were just left, teacups on the table. And, but I'm very hopeful because I was raised on Star Trek. And I think that that was a form of disclosure. All of our science fiction and Star Trek, and we've had 60 years of that now. And it's back again. Star Trek's back, and we're being introduced to all these technologies which apparently exist with the secret space program. So when we get back after this commercial break, we're going to talk more about solutions and about the experiences and what our guests saw when they traveled through the cosmos, what they were exposed to, and technologies and the political situations and the wars and the different alien beings. So we'll cover that in just about 5 minutes. And I'm waiting for the music. So as soon as that comes, we will take a little break, and we invite people to put your questions in the chat. Okay, here's a break. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay.
All right, see you in a bit.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
In breaking news, a visiting Syrian diplomat reported today that their population is evolving rapidly and advancing into a fifth-dimensional consciousness. They are seeking peace with all cosmic cultures, which may mean that the Earth will be asked to join the prestigious Galactic Federation of Light Alliances. Please join Debbie West and Michael Hathaway on Lost Knowledge, Saturdays, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in Studio A, for the latest breaking news on the Star Visitors' peaceful contact and the ongoing project of cleansing the Earth.
Who are you? I am the architect. I created the Matrix. I've been waiting for you.
Why am I here?
You are the eventuality of an anomaly which, despite my sincerest efforts, I have been unable to eliminate from what is otherwise a harmony of mathematical precision, which has led you inexorably here.
You haven't answered my question.
The Matrix is older than you know, as you are undoubtedly gathering. The anomaly is systemic, creating fluctuations in even the most simplistic equation.
Choice. The problem is choice.
Right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Be here Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Private Eye Matrix Revealed with Monique Lessin.
Hello, my name is Mr. Rowe. I am the host of Reality Extraction on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I utilize logic, intellect, and magic to methodically autonomize, vivisect, analyze, examine, study, scrutinize, and extract an essence of reality from a fog of illusion and confusion. You can find me on Studio B every Thursday at 1700 hours Pacific Time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern. No topic taboo, no subject too strange. I strive to take a neutral standpoint during the dissection of the topic at hand. That's Reality Extraction with Mr. Rowe on Revolution Radio.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Thanks for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we are listener-sponsored and commercial-free. But there still are bills to pay. In order to raise some needed funds to cover the cost, our station is offering a silver special. In the continental United States for a $60 donation, or in Alaska, Hawaii, or Canada for a $70 donation, we will send you an uncirculated 2018 1-ounce pure silver eagle. The $70 donation, the extra 10 is to cover shipping, by the way, outside of the continental United States. When making the donation, you must put Silver Eagle promo in the notes on the donation. And thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at revolution.radio and freedomslips.com. Without you, there is no us. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Collision Course is back. Schedule will be on Revolution Radio every Saturday night, 6 to 8 p.m. You get outer space. You get honest answers, real researchers, truthful answers, and a place to engage with questions. Take part in the discussion. Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com hosts Collision Course every Saturday from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Time.
How healthy are your arteries? Deteriorating circulation has a number of early warning signs. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, fingers and or toes often go cold, arms and or legs often go to sleep, sharp diagonal crease in the earlobe, short walks cause cramping or pains in legs, memory is not as good as it used to be, ankles swell late in the day, chest pain after physical exercise or emotional stress. If you experience even one of these symptoms, your circulatory system is crying out for attention. Extendivite is a natural solution to help improve your overall health. Extendivite is not your average heart tonic. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or find us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Are we live?
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Aloha, and welcome back to Stargate to the Cosmos, and I'm your host, Genetically, Lessin, with my co-host today, Barbara Jean Lindsey, and we have John Titor II and Dan Cooper, our special guests. But before we get back to our show, I'd like to remind everybody to please go over to that donation button. We need your donations to keep bringing all these incredible shows like ours and Barbara Jean shows and a Mad Painter Thomas Becker shows. And yes, our producer is Thomas Becker. Don't forget the world famous, great Thomas Becker. So, Thomas Becker, can you please tell us what's our special day and how are we doing with our fundraising? All that good stuff.
We need 2550, and we got 1354, and which is kind of low for this time of the month. But we have a special going for $160 donation in the continental U.S. You get a 5-ounce silver bar, and you have to put in the comment thing on the PayPal that it's for the bar and put your address, or we won't know where to mail it, and we'll just keep it.
Just keep that money. Okay, sounds great. So we are going to cover a lot of different things this second half. We want to know who's in charge. Who's the one that's, I guess, paying the paychecks and sending John and Dan to other parts of the solar system and other galaxies, other worlds to do their assignments. And what about the other extraterrestrials? And who's in charge of this planet? And how far down in priorities are our world leaders, like presidents and Putin and everybody else? So who wants to go first? Raise your hand. John or Dan? Speak up.
I can go first if you want me to.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, John. Yes.
Most of the time, I received orders from the commanding officer at Area 51, and he usually got orders from the Joint Chiefs. But everything was an approval process, and then I was thoroughly briefed on their expectations for a successful mission. So it went like that, always. And I would have to say that on one of my missions, I did go and visit a planet that the Anunnaki controlled, not Nibiru, and it's in the Kepler system. And I found them to be a very trustworthy, law-abiding civilization. And did they recycle everything? Yes, they're very conscious of that. They didn't use the internal combustion engine at all. Everything was anti-gravity. So I would have to say that it can be done, but it takes a long time to get there. And we're so stuck with the oil companies and the automakers and the internal combustion engine that if we don't make the turn here quick away from that, then I think we're screwed. But that's pretty much how it went for me. I always filed reports at the end of my missions, and I frequently was debriefed, and so was my team. So that's how it works.
Okay. Dan.
You want to know who's in charge? Okay, so let's see. When 17 and a half, I was playing water polo with the New York Athletic Club with Hans and Werner. They were the leaders of the team, and they were also the leaders of our battalion. They were the colonel and lieutenant colonel of our battalion. Hans and Werner, two Nazis that I played water polo with at the New York Athletic Club. Werner had actually won the Olympics for Germany. He was the lead forward. He was an incredible water polo player, even at the age of 56. I was 16 at the time when I was originally training with them, 17 when we got pulled out. Our actual overall commanders, the general was an Air Force general, United States Air Force. My program was United States Air Force, and all my training was on US Air Force bases. And then of course we also had Draco commanders, which also gave us orders on occasion for certain missions directly. That was rare. It would usually be for a mission that they absolutely had to have control over. So I had different commanders, and that was in the military, the 20 and back. But as far as the secret space program goes, I'm with Corey and Randy on that one. It's the Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate. It's a bunch of corporations that run it, U.S. corporations. So.
Okay, so then, so that's that's who you reported to. But did you have any inkling? Who was in control of this thing? This has been going on for a long time.
Well, no.
Obviously.
when I got pulled in at 17 and a half, and they beamed me up to the ship and said, "Guess what? You're in the program." Of course, you knew it because it's only during the day you don't know you're in the program. It's the night you know. So I've been training. I trained with Japanese, and I had Japanese. They were mostly Japanese instructors. I had some Chinese Shaolin instructors as well. But I spent a lot of time with our Japanese sword fighting masters, Japanese instructors. Spent a lot of time with them. Also engagements with them where they were leading the mission. It was mostly the United States Air Force. I was U.S. Air Force. I thought I was U.S. Air Force. They said I was U.S. Air Force. You're fighting for the United States, and it's imperative that you win for the United States. And that's what I thought. I believe that, and I still believe that. I still believe I was fighting for the United States.
And what about, do you think our presidents know?
No. They don't know anything. They don't tell them anything.
Okay. John, do you think our presidents know?
Absolutely.
Do you think Trump knows?
I'm a personal friend of Donald J. Trump. We share emails all the time. I had a Christmas card. I would say that he knows everything. Within 1 week of becoming president, he's handed the Book of Secrets. And there's a briefing from DOD when he got the book. He knows everything. There isn't anything he doesn't know. He knew about the secret space program, and he wanted to push for the Space Force. And I applauded his action. They know. Nothing is withheld.
So do all the presidents know? No?
I think that our first real contact with presidents and extraterrestrials occurred while Truman was still president. And then while Eisenhower was president, he signed the first of 4 agreements. The first agreement gave the Tall Whites a spaceport at what is Creech Air Force Base, 1 hour north of Las Vegas. And that is really the front door to Area 51, the back door being Rachel, Nevada. There is an Area 52, by the way, and I'm actually going there in a few weeks. But I would say that John F. Kennedy wanted to go to Area 51. And he went there, he saw everything, he met extraterrestrials, and his assassination happened within weeks of that. And then he told his brother, Robert, everything that he knew. And he also told Marilyn. And they were both assassinated too. Marilyn threatened to talk about things she shouldn't have been. And I think that's part of the reason that she was killed. But there was some assassinations. I will say that what I know now is that LBJ couldn't wait to be president anyway. Nixon knew. Clinton knew. Obama knew. During Obama's administration, Edward Snowden stole documents, and he shared these documents with the Russians and the Chinese and the Iranians. And the Iranians were pissed because they realized that what the document that we signed with the Tall Whites is, it makes the United States a protectorate of the Tall Whites, literally. The Tall Whites being light years ahead of Homo sapiens on this planet by light years, and it's a mutual defense thing. They could basically clean any other country's clock if necessary. Take care of North Korea in a heartbeat. Oh yeah. Clean Russia's clock, definitely. And the Iranians too. They know if they dare start something, Whatever we can't finish, the tall whites will take care of it. And that's how there's not been really a nuclear war. And quite recently, Vladimir Putin took Kim Jong-un aside and gave him the lowdown, the lay of the land, if you will. And he's been behaving pretty well since. But I would have to say that the tall whites are undisputed control of this planet. And they have actually gone and taken over Russian silos and gotten the missile codes for the missiles in the silos. And they've also done it here in the United States. They just wanted to demonstrate their technical ability. Now, there was a time there before Vladimir Putin came to power, and the USSR used to get into dogfights, and all these dogfights were recorded at KGB headquarters in Moscow. And I got to look at the file, and basically every time that they sent fighters up to chase off extraterrestrial spacecraft within their airspace, they got shot down. They never won a single time. So, and then more recently, I have seen plasma weaponry used by the Space Force, and they've used it to just put a shot over the bow of extraterrestrial spacecraft that don't have agreements to enter our airspace. It's all about the airspace.
Mm-hmm. So, do we have a lot of people that are trying to come in here?
Well,
into our airspace, a lot of beings.
We know, and Paul Hellyer has said this, the ex-defense minister of Canada. He says that there are some 184 species in this galaxy, and we've just probably had some dealings with maybe 10 of them, and agreements with 4.
At my conference I had in October, we had a bunch of secret space program people, and I think it was Randy Kramer, one of them, was saying that they come in and they steal our people. They swoop in, they're like pirates, and they steal our resources. But they often take people, and the people that they use as slaves. They can be sex slaves, they can be work slaves, they can be, whatever. So apparently that we're a valuable commodity in the universe, and people like to trade human beings. That's what they said, but I don't know if anybody had any more information on that.
Here's what I know. Thousands of years ago, if you look at the Aztec pyramids or the Mayan pyramids, picture this. The steps going up to the pyramid with a spacecraft on top. The indigenous population is herded to the top, and off they go. They can be food, they can be cyborgs, they can be slaves, they can be used for biological testing, all of the above. And who's to stop them?
Right.
The extraterrestrials have plasma weaponry, possibly very lethal and very scary. So the whole population could be walked up to the top of the pyramid, gone. I went to Nibiru when I was on active duty, and I went there on a diplomatic mission. And what I saw in some of the Anunnaki homes were another class of hominid called the Mayans. And they were used as slaves. And I asked about it. And they said, yes, we brought slaves to the planet to do housework and other menial jobs that we didn't want to do. So I didn't want to press beyond that.
Yeah, it makes sense. Barbara, what comments? We'll just kind of go round table. What would you like to ask? What do you want to add to this dialogue? Barbara Jean.
Yeah, I have a question. It's all pretty fascinating, actually. I'm kind of new all of this, but so who's the top kahuna? Who's the main force that have all the technology and the power in this galaxy and beyond that? Is there a hierarchy like that? Is it a struggle for that, or is there just been a main power that's consistent over history?
I would say that there are several species of extraterrestrials, and some of them roam the galaxy looking for exoplanets to exploit, take the gold and silver and precious gems and enslave people, and off they go to the next world. A bit like the ancient Vikings, And then there are other species that I would say are like the tall whites, and they visit new worlds. They try to entice civilizations that are ready to join a federation, if you will, or some organization of extraterrestrial species in friendship and trade. I visited this one extraterrestrial planet in the Kepler system, and they did business with a lot of extraterrestrial species, some I hadn't seen before. But I would say that the Anunnaki were a warlike species, and they came to Earth, I think, some 40 to 50,000 years ago, and they started civilization on this planet. And the Anunnaki colonized this planet, and they also colonized Mars. But at some point, there was a nuclear war, and there are all kinds of indicators of the nuclear war all over Earth and Mars. There's an isotope on Mars that you only get when there's been a nuclear war. And I think there was a devastating war on Mars, and it spilled over to Earth. And we see, like the remnants of it. One of the, like if you talk to Dr. Robert Schoch, who's a renowned archaeologist and geologist, and if you look at the Colossi of Memnon, these are two sitting pharaoh sculptures, and they weigh maybe 200 tons apiece. And there's no way we could even lift them. And no one really knows how they were carved. But at some point, they encountered the intense heat of a nuclear blast. And there are other monuments in Egypt, or what was called Kem once, and there's lots of signs that there were nuclear blasts there. And also in Libya, they have Libyan glass. It's a green glass. Over in Pakistan at Mohenjo-Daro, there was a nuclear detonation there that in a flash killed tens of thousands of people. In the early 1940s, when Dr. Robert Oppenheimer was working on the first nuclear weapon to drop on the Japanese, and after a successful test at the Trinity test site, they congratulated him. He says, "We're not the first. We're not the first." And then he talked about Mohenjo-Daro.
Great.
The bottom line is that nuclear weapons are terrible weapons, but I am aware of weapons that are, beyond thermonuclear weapons that can destroy a planet in an instant. Oh, yes. And who has these types of weapons? I would say the tall whites. You can't beat them, and they're by far superior to any other extraterrestrial species I've encountered. But I would say that if you want more information on the tall whites, you need to read everything that Charles Hall has written. He was stationed at Creech Air Force Base, which was then Indian Springs Gunnery Range. It's such a neat place to go to. You drive 1 hour north of Vegas, and you just turn left and go into the Chevron station, then look across the freeway at Creech Air Force Base. If you're there at 10 o'clock, you see the biggest Predator drones anybody uses in the world. These things at 10 a.m., they're taking off and landing. 20 millimeter laser weaponry and Hellfire missiles. So, and they're
I saw Charles Hall last year in Vegas. We went over to his presentation because I always wanted to meet him. And fascinating story. But I didn't get that from his presentation, but it was so long. He said he usually does it for days on and we only had one afternoon, but I didn't get that whole thing about how powerful the tall whites are. And I didn't know, how did they become so powerful? I thought the tall whites were the, crossbreed between the Anunnaki and the humans. But you're saying they're not related to the Anunnaki?
I think they're an older species. Much older.
They're an older species.
But we are connected to them. I believe we are.
And what's their origin? Where did they come from? Tall whites.
I don't know, and I've never really been able to sit down and talk to one for any length of time. And the whole thing is, they interrogate me, and then I get to ask a few questions, and they use telepathy a lot. Occasionally, I had an instant where I met 2 or 3 at a shopping mall, and the first thing I noticed, I nudged Marsha and said, "Look," and I said, "See how tall they are?" And she said, "Yeah." And then they just looked at me when I said that to her, and it's like they heard every word and just nodded to me. And they're very perceptive. And I just believe that they're probably just way beyond.
So you saw them in where was this, in Vegas or something?
No. Actually,
they were in a mall or something?
California.
In California.
Yeah, I saw them. And it's not.
And how tall are they? How tall are they?
I thought, well, this one was wearing even high heels, 7.5, 8 feet tall, no problem. He might have been a short one. Okay, I know that people see him in Vegas, and the Clark County Sheriff has a strict policy to assist them and not detain. And when I say assist, if somebody misspoke to them, the sheriff would take care of it. It's just how it is. You don't. It's pretty undisputed. And have I seen them in the casinos? A couple times. I go in there and first I think I'm dealing with basketball players, but they're middle-aged. And I'm saying, oh. But they're typically blonde, reddish hair, pale skin. Gives them away every time.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me pass the talking stick. Yeah, go ahead.
Charles Hall is the authority on it.
The authority. All right. Let me pass the talking stick to Dan. Dan, what would you like to
feedback,
say, add to the conversation?
Well, I don't know.
ask each other.
We covered a lot of subjects. John's, pretty interesting character. He's had a lot of experience. That's really cool. My recent experience, and I know you like experiences. Experiences are good.
I do like experiences.
That's really
yes.
that's what the people want to hear. They want to hear the actual experiences. And I have a lot of battle scenes to relate. I remember you wanted to go over the Kumite of the galaxy. And I told you before,
yes.
I say that one for last, and I wanted to go over the order of battle scenes once I start describing them, starting from my training battle scenes. But we'll go over that. That's not today. We have John here, and John's really, very valuable. He has so much experience. So I'm going to tell you a recent experience and a species, an alien species. I was working with the National Security Agency of the United States. Agent was reviewing my work in free energy development, and I was working with him because I figured, they'll tell me if they're going to release it or not. I told him I don't want to waste my time unless it's going to get released. And Admiral so and so of the NSA said it was going to get released, so continue to work on it. You're not wasting your time. Okay, that was in 2014. Anyway. That NSA agent showed me a video. Apparently, they had done a bunch of videos of the different alien species that we were associating with in the 60s. The original videos apparently were in the 16 millimeter camera. They showed us the camera, and the camera was on a tripod. It was on a ship, and there was a cameraman and an interviewer that was also operating the camera, and he was shooting a video of this alien on his ship, and they were going over the how the ship operates, and he was showing the instruments, and the alien himself was a Ganesh face, elephant face with the short elephant snout, and it was just so amazing seeing this alien being interviewed about his ship, and then cruising around. We went from Earth to Saturn like in a heartbeat. In this ship, we're looking out the portal of the ship on this camera. We're talking to this alien, and he was very charismatic. The captain of the ship. He was very charismatic. They had these long arms and a big chest, and very humanoid, but the fingers were longer. It was the elephant head, and the gestures and the facial expressions were very different, but they were very charismatic. And those were all black and white, 16 millimeter black and whites that they had shot, and they had shown me one of these. So that was my most recent experience. That was in 2016 when that was shown to me. That was my most recent experience.
Where were you when they were showing you this?
I was right here. He showed to me on a video, Skype.
Wow.
Yeah, so he popped up and said,
I want to see that.
Check this out. We're considering on releasing these. What do you think? It's like, okay, go ahead, show me one, So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's
pretty cool.
exciting.
So apparently that was like one. Apparently they really like these Ganesh beings. I don't know the name of that species. I never met that species. I never met tall whites. I know they're telepathic. I've heard a lot about tall whites. Everything John is saying and is correct about tall whites. That we've made agreements with them because they're our protectors. And I get all that. But I didn't serve here. I didn't serve in the solar system. I mean, I did battle. I served off planet. My experiences are very isolated because. It's very compartmentalized. Battles are very compartmentalized. We're not supposed to talk to anybody else. Nobody's supposed to talk to us. We're not supposed to, know very much even about our engagements anyway. But it's really nice to hear John's experiences. So I thought I'd give you my most recent experience. Go ahead.
Fast. Go ahead. Yeah. Barbara Jean, what species have you interacted with?
Well, when you were talking. In my near-death experience, I keep going back to that, but in that, when my body was in the coma and I went off-planet or interdimensional, there was a part where I go to a gala, like a ambassador's party, and one of the beings that I remember specifically, and I wrote about it back in 1989, was that elephant being, and I was so shocked when I saw it. And it had like a human body, but with an elephant head, only it was more pink. It was kind of a pink, had a kind of a slight pink to it. So I just have to put that out there for whatever that's worth. And I do have one kind of personal question, and both for Dan and for John. When you go off planet like that or interdimensional, did you ever see any tall, square-shouldered, white-hooded beings that you never saw their face? Did either of you?
Hold on. You're talking about plasma beings?
I'm not sure.
Plasma beings. You're talking about. Well, they're energy beings, and you don't see space because all you're seeing is energy.
Okay.
And my encounters, I've run across plasma beings, energy beings, and plasma beings, but I didn't associate. You just see them. It's part of the. You see them over there. Talking to the general. I didn't get to talk to them.
Thank you.
John, did we lose John?
Go ahead. John, did you have any experience with plasma beings?
Yes. Basically, Tesla weaponry. There's a handheld device. There's a rifle. Then there's something that's like a machine gun, but it kind of looks like the old 50 cal Browning heavy machine gun, and these things are all based on a Nikola Tesla design that the government acquired in 1947 and developed it. And this is the standard weaponry that I always used, but I'm trained to use firearms, swords, knives, crossbow, bow and arrow, just about everything you can think of. I was trained in martial arts, but and I may have already said this, I'm very old, and these days I resort to German shepherds and guards, and usually I don't get out much, and when I do, I'm usually in the company of a bodyguard. And I will tell you that there have been some times when I've forgone the bodyguard, and it's been about 2 years ago. I got my face crushed and my rib cage crushed, and the doctors didn't know why I lived. I knew I was unconscious, and I just opened my eyes. That's my worst experience. And then the healing process. I had to go through a lot with my face and getting it to where I could be presentable. And then my entire rib cage was crushed. So I had to sleep on my back. But getting around was very difficult. But they didn't break my arms or my legs or my neck. And but they had left me for dead. So I usually am very careful. There are some situations where what I do is I do carry a weapon, typically more than one, and I have a permit to carry. And I do.
Don't blame you.
There's nothing like having your face crushed.
Right, that's pretty personal. My face. Yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you. I've never had anything like that happen. Knock on wood. But
every nerve in my face just it was like I could feel the nerves, and finally that subsided. But I still have a side of my face that is still nerve damaged. But I'm presentable.
You're presentable. Good. Okay, back to you, Dan.
Sure. What's up? You want me to talk about stuff, right?
Whatever. Where do you
have a specific question?
I don't know. I got lost. Where were we? I got stuck in my mind stuck with poor John's face getting smashed. So.
Oh yeah, he diverted. Yeah, he says it's dangerous doing these activities. Trying to get the information out, and I'm sure it is. But Because I served with distinction, they pretty much have an obligation to come talk to me beforehand. And my handler basically said that to me. I had a handler for 20 years since 1997. I had a handler, CIA handler, and he basically, they come talk to you. And unless you're really stupid, you kind of back off, or make agreements. I made an agreement with them. I started doing legal cases for them, and they let me continue doing what I'm doing, which is inventing. They actually encouraged me. The CIA encouraged me to invent. The NSA encouraged me to invent. And so, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I think because of my war record, which is exemplary, I've been decorated so many times for my engagements for the United States Air Force. They have to come talk to me. They can't do that. And they do protect me. I get protected by police here, and who've been directed to protect me. I have 2 FBI agents that cruise the neighborhood. They protect me. They've been ordered to protect me. But I'm also very dangerous myself. Sometimes they do get through people who want to attack me, and I've always taken care of business. I still work out. I'm still in shape, so I don't have that problem. But man, John, it can always happen. You can always lose one. I get it, really.
When you least expect it, your overconfidence is a stumbling block sometimes.
Yeah. Well, we're still broadcasting, so
yeah.
I think
So anyway, as far as experiences go, John said a lot of stuff. President Trump, I'm really excited to hear that you've been talking to Trump and he's aware of these things. Apparently, his hands are tied and he can't bring out the technology. So he's obviously not in charge. I have to go approach other people to see what level of release of the tech. That's what I'm working on, the level of release of the technology. I'm trying to solve the problem. I'm not going to sit around and give up. I never give up. They didn't teach me that in the secret space program. In fact, they taught us to be an army of one, and I was an army of one. And I never gave up, not in any engagement. And I'm not giving up on this engagement.
I think that my worst experience was that I was basically in a situation where I was ushered down to a courtyard, and my entire team had been taken into custody. There were about 6 or 7 of them, and I had to duel with this general of an army, and I was told that if I lost, that my entire team would be beheaded. And it was a duel to the death. And I'm not bad with the sword. I don't know anymore, but I would have to say that in that one instance, I took a head. The guy didn't know what hit him. I cut off part of his arm, his sword arm, and then I proceeded to cut his head off. But I saved my team, and the next day I got a promotion. That was probably my worst. But I would have to say that I had my arm pulled out of the socket. I had damage to one eye, and I had a severe abdominal wound in battle with the Anunnaki. So I've tried to lead from the front in some situations when necessary. These days, I just say, I'm the old guy. I'm going to sit back at the back of it, but I'm not going to do anything anymore. And the most they ever ask me to do is consult. But they're worried that I'm going to give up information. It's like I'm probably one of the very few people you'll talk to that knows where the U.S. government has a stationary time machine that works. It just works. So, and I know way too much. It's just like when I had a little conversation with the FBI the other day. They said, "Where is Area 51?" So I told them. And they said, "Oh, thank you." And they can't arrest me for that one because everybody else knows what I told them. I didn't tell them too much. And that's how I pretty much handle everything these days. I don't tell people more than what I can get away with. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't want to be indicted. I don't want Robert Mueller to show up on my doorstep and say, "You gave it all away." Oh, no. I didn't.
No, I didn't do that.
But the whole thing
I
is,
know nothing.
I do write white papers, engineering papers still, and occasionally, they say, "Well, come out to Edwards Air Force Base," and I go out there, and they want to talk to me about something, and they already know the answer, but they just want to double check with me. I had a situation where I went and looked at the F-35, and this guy, he was I think he was a full bird colonel. And he looked at me and says, "And you know what this is?" And I just said to him, "With that helmet, you can see right through the fuselage." And he stared at me. And he said, "How'd you know that?" And I didn't tell him. But the helmet they wear in the F-35, I think it's like, I don't know, $750,000 for one. Yeah, it's a lot of money. But
so you can see right through. You can
see right through.
So you can see right through.
Everything. It's like the plane is invisible. Picture this: you're sitting there in the seat, and what you have in your heads up in your helmet, it's your weapons and everything, and you see right through the plane. You can see anything coming up from the ground towards you, and that's the big advantage. And you sit there and target it and pull the trigger. So as you're flying by, and you can't see them, they're stealth. They're great aircraft. This one guy I talked to, he used to fly the A-10, and I love the A-10s. He used to shoot 20 millimeter depleted uranium. They melt tanks. I love that. And I got to ride in one time. I loved it. I watched him shoot this old tank with depleted uranium. I thought, man, this is the ticket. But, and it's a very slow-moving jet aircraft. It doesn't go very fast. We hug the ground and just come up on it and cut loose. It's crazy. But, you two are privy to technologies that most of us are not aware of. What are some other things that you've been exposed to in terms of technology? Like, can we cure all diseases? Can we raise the dead? Can we put back on arms and heads like a lot of the secret space program people say that we can do? I think that we can do a lot medically, and we're just starting to. I think that they just announced the cure for HIV the other day, and they just announced the cure for sickle cell syndrome. I think that they're getting down to gene splicing, and the Anunnaki are famous for gene splicing. It's like I would tell you that they created super soldiers that, like if you looked at the early days of Egypt when it was called Chem, and there was someone called Thoth, and he was reputed to be a prince of Atlantis. And then I went to Nibiru and I met with the royal family on Nibiru. And what I saw on Nibiru was soldiers that had wings and the head of a bird. And then I saw ground troops that had the head of Anubis. Where did that all come from? I saw those things and I said, I've seen these things before. And so when I talk to their medical people, and I just got a walkthrough of they had a giant history of war that they had conducted all over the galaxy. And I went to this museum and I asked questions, and I said, how did they come to be? And they said, gene splicing. We created super soldiers that could fly. Well, they're in battle. They're horrific. The ones that have the head of Anubis and the head of Horus, it's all out of the Egyptian pantheon. They created those. There were so many things that were in the Egyptian pantheon of gods, and it was all gene splicing. So I think in the future that we'll see our own medical sciences get to the point where we do gene splicing routinely to cure things. What it's all going to come down to, manipulation of our DNA. They map the DNA genome, and now they can do it. They know what to do. The guy was explaining the other day just how to cure sickle cell. And he said it's just one malformed gene on a DNA strand, and they know how to change it and fix it. Yeah. That's where we're all going.
Yeah. Right. We're heading to this. Go ahead.
The super soldiers that I was cloned with, I mean, telepathy, empathy, more than 10% of your brain. Oh, yeah. But, it's all about what they engineered us to do. And I did what they wanted. And then later I found out that there was a life expectancy connected to everything. And I outlived my life expectancy. Hence, I am very old.
You said that. So you weren't expected to be around still. And you're very, very happy that you're still around. Is that what you're saying?
I would say the fact that I'm still here demonstrates that I can survive horrific damage done to my body, and that medical science will keep me going for as long as I want to.
And you attribute that to being a super soldier, that a normal person would have died from the injuries that you sustained?
Yes, absolutely. I think so. Most people would not survive having their face crushed or their rib cage crushed. My heart leaked and it healed.
Wow.
That was a big shock for the doctors that were working on me. You know, they didn't think I'd make it through the first night. They didn't give the good news to Marcia right away. And then I did. Yeah.
So unlike Dan, you started out a clone. Dan, you were given a clone body.
No, I was genetically engineered from birth and then put into a womb, into a sperm, and then that sperm, was put into a womb. So I'm a genetically engineered sperm, okay? And then that body was cloned when I was 17 and a half. That body was cloned, and then the original body went off to war for 20 years. And when I was done, they destroyed that body because it was too powerful. They didn't want it back here in humanity, and they allowed the clone to proceed with my soul in it. They cloned me at 17 and a half at the end of my training period. And then when I deployed, that body didn't come back. That I spent 20 years out there, but it's still me. It's still the person who was in both bodies. It's just that I don't have the abilities that body developed over the 20 years of combat. I don't have the memories either.
So it's very significant because they can transfer us to different bodies. So basically, we could be immortal.
Right. Okay. That's
every time you need a body.
Yeah. There's only a few species that know how to do that. See, you're talking about grays and tall whites, and you wonder why the United States cozied up to these groups. Well, they got technology.
Right. It's all about the technology.
That's right.
But they call it black technology.
What, John?
It's black technology. Black technology is that which the extraterrestrials trade to us for concessions on this planet.
Correct.
You have to understand that. You know, they say, okay, now we have this little thing that will allow you to beam up and beam down, but what we really want is some mining opportunities for us to mine a particular mineral that you don't really mine now, but we'd like to mine it. And it's in a remote part of your country, and you won't even know we're there.
Right.
So, stuff like that.
Oh, we're running out of time. Barbara Jean, one final word to you, and then we're going to be out of time. One final word.
Oh,
Barbara Jean.
I just want to thank everyone. I want to thank Mr. Cooper and John Titor for enlightening me today on this subject. It's fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
If you'd like to learn more,
yes.
John Titor has a YouTube channel. Look at my YouTube videos. Like my videos, subscribe to my channel. I have 2 books in print. They're both for sale on eBay and Amazon. Authorized Chronicles of John Titor II and Continued Chronicles of John Titor II. No one disputes what I write or say. No one.
Awesome, John.
Thank you. I'm so glad we got all together here in one show. Thank you so much for listening. Much love and blessings and aloha. See you again next Sunday.
Thank you.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Thanks for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we are listener-sponsored and commercial-free, but there still are bills to pay. In order to raise some needed funds to cover the cost, our station is offering a silver special. In the continental United States for a $60 donation, or in Alaska, Hawaii, or Canada for a $70 donation, we will send you an uncirculated 2018 1-ounce pure silver Eagle. The $70 donation, the extra 10 is to cover shipping, by the way, outside of the continental United States. When making the donation, you must put Silver Eagle promo in the notes on the donation. And thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at revolution.radio and freedomslips.com. Without you, there is no us. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.